Welcome back to Banging the Can, the Houston sports show that does not apologize for championship rings and tings, presented by Bolen Media. I am Ross Bolen, and according to Astros fans on social media, the season is over. We had a good run the last 6 years. A great run. But it's time to accept our fate and resign ourselves to the fact that we will not be making the postseason in 2023. Granted, Fangraphs says we still have a 90.2% chance of making the postseason, 51.8% chance of winning the AL West, and 12.8% chance of winning the World Series. But I've never been a math guy. Not a math guy. And unfortunately, regardless of the fact that we still have a half-game lead over the division with 10 games left to play, including the one that is going on right now against the Baltimore Orioles, the season is over, and we can all start thinking about 2024. We'll always have 2017 and 2022, but now we must look to the future. For 2023 is a lost cause, a wasted season, and we are a broken team with no realistic odds of making the playoffs unless you listen to the math and reason, which we all know Astros fans on social media do not. Look, I'm obviously being facetious, sarcastic, I'm joking, although we do currently hold a one-run deficit to the Baltimore Orioles already in the top of the first. They can't stop scoring, and there are a lot of things that are true all at the same time right now. One, we very much could still win the division. Very easily could still make the postseason. We still have plenty of games left to play. And I think 7 of their last 10, as I talked about last week or the week before that, the Rangers and Mariners play each other. So there's going to be a lot of cannibalization going on there for the Arlington Rangers and the Seattle Mariners. So we're not ruined, but we've played like shit in September, for sure. And it has been a rough season, undoubtedly. Like the injuries at the top of the season and then the inconsistent play after the All-Star break, where at one point we were firing on all cylinders and I was like, holy shit, we're going to win 90 games still. And now I'm just like, oh God, are we even going to make the playoffs? And maybe we won't. Maybe we don't. And if we don't, at that point, then I think all the bitching and the moaning can start to occur and be fair. But the amount of negativity and complaining and just giving up that is happening within our fan base right now is sad. Fortunately, I don't think that is the vibe in the Astros clubhouse. I think guys are frustrated. I think it's really hard to go from not having any type of competition in your division over a 6-year stretch into having a 3-way race, and really, if you throw Toronto in with the wild card race, a 4-team situation that you're really having to stay on your P's and Q's at the end of the year and things aren't going the way you want them to. That's frustrating. That's hard. It's maddening for the players, for sure, just like it is for the fans. But there's just this despondence, and especially, you know, I'm obviously speaking specifically about Astros fans that are extremely vocal on social media, but even some of the fans I know in the real world, in real life, that aren't on social media, seem to be giving up. And I don't really understand that. That's not a winning attitude, is the only way I know how to put it. As a guy who played sports and loved sports, you learn what the attitude of a winner looks like. And this woe is me, everything is lost, we're screwed, it's over nonsense is despicable. It really is stupid. It's sickening. And I hate it because, look, it's already tough watching the games right now. It is. It's hard because we're not playing the way we know we could. This roster is obviously underperforming. And you can talk about the lineup changes and Dusty Baker's managerial decisions and him wearing a Hawaiian shirt with sunglasses, doing his interview before today's game in which he announced he was benching Yordan Alvarez because sometimes you have to sacrifice one game for the next 9. You can talk about all that. You can talk about the pitching and how the pitching hasn't been good, but everybody knows the pitching hasn't been good. You can't do anything about your pitchers in September after the trade deadline. You can't do anything about Hunter Brown giving up runs pretty consistently all season long. You can't do anything about, the way that the pitchers are performing at this point. Like, Presley had a rough game the other night. That when we had the, 7-5 lead and he gave up a 3-run bomb and we lost 8-7. It was brutal. It was terrible timing. But there are multiple things to consider when you talk about, look, first of all, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Baseball includes a lot of luck that fans are not willing to address. Some nights, pitchers can have their best stuff, hit their spots, and still get rocked because sometimes the guy with the bat is just better. That's the way sports work in general, but really with baseball, more than any other sport that I ever played, there is this element of it that is almost poker-esque, where like you can hold the cards, but what comes out on the flop is not up to you. And sometimes you get a bad beat. Sometimes you take a loss that you didn't deserve or see coming. And baseball operates very much in the same way, where you'll see teams go through these streaks that are almost inexplicable. Like the Astros, really, right now, this past few weeks, it's been like, what the hell, guys? Because the division has been there for the taking. The Mariners kind of fell apart. The Rangers definitely fell apart. We gave both of them plenty of time, more than enough time, to take a stranglehold on the division and absolutely screw us out of the postseason race. They didn't do it. Everybody has been blowing it at the same time. And that's one thing I don't think our fan base is considering enough either. When you look at the competition, you're really scared of the Mariners and the Rangers? Like, they're both sucking at the same time as us. So at least we all suck together, and we're still in this as a result. Still leading the division by a half a game, at least as I speak. Middle of the first inning now, so they only got one run in the first, which is good. That's better than we've been doing. The point is, I don't enjoy operating that way as a fan. Like, it's not over till it's over, is what I'm saying. And yeah, it's fine to be frustrated with the way things have gone. Upset even, if you must be upset. But you also have to acknowledge the fact that this is not over. There are 10 games left, including the one that's being played right now, and we have plenty of opportunity in front of us to make sure that we still secure that American League West divisional championship for the 7th year in a row or however many at this point. Excuse me. But I cannot enjoy sports going about it the way that some of these people on social media do and outside of it, where you're living and dying with every game, every series. When there's a bad stretch, you abandon all hope. And the one thing, I'm at the point, this is the worst season in terms of the fan interactions that we've maybe ever had as an organization. Because we went through this long stretch where we were very, very spoiled, never had to worry about anything. Astros were dominating the division year after year. We make 4 World Series trips in 6 years. We win 2 of them. Just a dynastic stretch for this Houston Astros team that we have never had before in the history of the franchise. And as a result, the expectations of the fans are not matching up with the play that's on the field. And this has been an unfortunate season in a lot of ways. The injuries to the pitching staff in particular have really started to show their terrible results here toward the end of the season, where it's like, man, you wish you had Luis Garcia at this point. You wish you could trust Framber Valdez more than you feel like you can. It's bonkers that Justin Verlander somehow feels like our only reliable starting pitcher at the moment. Hunter Brown has not progressed the way we hoped he would. It's not been good. And, I think for Yordan Alvarez and Jose Altuve missing the big chunks of time that they did, it makes it really, really difficult to get momentum, to maintain momentum, to feel comfortable game after game after game when you don't have as many games under your belt as you normally do in September. That being said, Jose Altuve has performed pretty incredibly. I think Yordan, he just seems to need, like today, he's got another game off. He just seems to need a little more time off than he normally does. He's gone through stretches where he's striking out a little bit more than he normally does. I mean, there's still the whole thing with Martin Maldonado as our starting catcher and whether or not we should be allowing Yanier Diaz to be the everyday starting catcher. Yanier is raking. He's like hitting as one of the best catchers batting-wise in the American League, and yet he's our backup. There are all these factors, and that makes it really frustrating and difficult to judge as a fan, and I understand that. I commiserate with that. Like, I'm right there with you. But to throw in the towel and say all the things that people are saying on social media, whether it's just venting or an outlet or whatever, I do think it matters to some degree. When you have a mass of people being extremely negative about each game, I think that rubs off on the fan base as a whole, and I think the players can feel it as well. There's more power in that energy than some people are willing to admit. But you put all that negativity towards something, and that's a lot of, you can call it manifestation if you want, going against your team, which doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't compute that you would want to operate that way, live that way, talk that way, think that way. It sucks. Yes, it sucks. It sucks that we didn't take advantage of this stretch, this month or two long stretch where the Mariners and Rangers have wavered. It sucks that we're going to have to be buckled into these last 10 games like they are playoff games. We have not had to do that ever, really. I mean, not at least in the last 6-7 seasons, right? I bet it's been more than a decade since Astros fans have had to do that, so we're not used to it. It's hard. It's taxing. It's exhausting. It's stressful. I'm with you. But to just give up is fucked. That is pathetic behavior. To act like the run is over. Well, we had a good run. Please rejoin us in reality. Like, even if, worst case scenario, we somehow miss out on the playoffs, regardless of the math still saying we have an over 9 in 10 chance of getting in. Even if that happens, or let's say we make the playoffs and we get knocked out in the first, like before we expected to. We don't even make the ALCS. Is the season a disappointment? Yes. Yes, it is. Do some changes need to be made? I think that's a given at this point. Some changes, at the very least, need to be made. If we don't win the World Series, do I think we'll see Dusty Baker back? Probably not. And I don't necessarily think that's his fault. I think Dusty's taken a lot more heat than he needs to this season because people are frustrated and angry and they want someone to take it out on. But he's an old man. He's already gotten his ring, and I think he'll probably retire if this season doesn't end in a World Series. Even if it does, he might retire. And that would be a big change in and of itself, a new manager, right? But also I think they'll be looking at our pitching coaches. I think they'll be looking at the catching situation and making decisions about what will happen next season. I think there's a good chance Yanier Diaz is the everyday catcher next season. Because this experiment with Martin Maldonado being like the greatest game caller in the American League or whatever, and relying on him as a catcher because he does a great job managing the pitchers and calling pitches and doing research and on each batter and knowing their strengths and weaknesses and where they hit and where they don't, blah, blah, blah. It hasn't really worked out the way that I think management or ownership hoped it would. And when you factor in how well Yanier Diaz is hitting, it is a really, really ugly looking situation at the moment. Like that's just, it's getting pretty, I said this on Twitter yesterday, but like I'm ready to cross the picket line. I'm ready to join all of you who have been complaining all season, like, why isn't Diaz the starting catcher? I get it now. All right. Now I think there's enough evidence that he is that dude, that he is one of the best offensive catchers in baseball. There still seems to be some left to be desired on the defensive side of him as a catcher, but like he can rake, and we need his bat because the guys that we rely on, and this is going to be tough to hear for some of you, but the guys that we rely on in that top 5 of the order have not gotten it done. There have been big at-bats, even for Yordan. Yesterday against the Orioles comes to mind, where multiple runners in scoring position, and he didn't get it done. Bregman, probably the most consistent out of all of them this season, has gotten it done more often than not, but like all those guys, I mean, and then getting outside the top 5, like Pena has to be better. Dudes are just not hitting the way we know that they can. They're not seeing the ball the way that we know that they can. So we've got this whole batter's eye thing coming into play. If you haven't been paying attention to that, the batter's eye is the area that behind the pitcher, essentially all the way back in center field, that is behind the pitcher and can distract the batter and make it more difficult for them to see the ball out of the pitcher's hand. and the movement and spin on the ball as it approaches the plate. Now, the reason that that's an absurd thing to me is because the other teams have to hit in our ballpark too. But clearly there was enough evidence that that was messing with our hitters to where they went and they painted over a certain area of it. And we put up a good amount of runs last night. What did we score? 7 runs? 5 runs? 7 runs the night before that. So it's not like we're not scoring, but defensively it's just not it's not coming together. It hasn't come together. We need to score more if we're going to give up as many as we are. Obviously, that's how, sports work. You score more points than the other team, you win, unless you're talking about golf. Let's not go there. The point is, it hasn't gone well. It's been a kind of a shitstorm. If they can pull it together in these last 10 games, still win the division and get into the playoffs on a high note, they're just as dangerous as anybody in the league. At that point, I genuinely believe that. There's enough postseason experience, championship experience, enough pedigree on this roster to get the job done still. So are the next 10 days going to be a fucking nightmare for all of us? Yes, it's going to suck. Like I said, we might as well be in the playoffs already. That's how important every game is from here on out. We might as well look at it as we are fucking tied for the division and every game is make or break, must win. Because that's pretty much where we're at. And that is tough. Because I wasn't ready for that. Like stress levels wise, I don't need this shit. Because now we have this looming potential embarrassment, right? Not making the playoffs, not like it doesn't happen all the time. Teams regularly win the World Series and then have an off year the next year and don't do shit and then go into a rebuild the year after that. It happens. Because a lot of the times you're pushing all your chips into the middle and that's how you win the World Series, but then, that's kind of it. You cashed all your chips and now you don't have much to go off of for the next couple few seasons or whatever, and you have to do a rebuild. We're not in that position, first of all, but it would be embarrassing to not make the postseason, for sure. So that threat of embarrassment makes all of this shit heavier for the fans. I don't think necessarily the players look at it that way, but for the fans, that's what we are weighing, and that's why some of you are as frustrated and angry as you are. And again, I understand, but the vocalization of it, or the tweeting of it, the texting, the putting it into words of it, you got to stop. The negativity, the incessant bitching has got to stop. If they make the postseason, every single person who has made Astros social media a living hell for the past really like 6 months shouldn't even be allowed to go or cheer or watch. You shouldn't be allowed to enjoy the fruits of their labor if you shit on them all year. I genuinely wish that was the case. The people that said they were dead in the water and it was over yesterday, which was a fuck ton of people, that they wouldn't even be allowed to enjoy the postseason. There has to be some punishment for this behavior. Because the way it's supposed to work is you're supposed to believe in your team and root for your team and have faith in your team. And even during the hard times when shit gets tough, in this case, especially when you're looking at a fucking roster full of guys that you know are amazing, you're supposed to keep your head up, have some fucking self-respect, keep in the back of your mind that you are the defending world champions and act like you've been there before. I don't care if you haven't. If this is a new experience for you because you can't remember a time when the division race was tight, just buckle in. And then if it does end in failure, that's when you're allowed to do what you've been doing for months. For some of you more recently, just weeks, and you joined in later. And I understand you people more than the ones that have been complaining all seasons. People with absolutely ridiculous expectations. When you deal with the amount of injuries that we did the first half of the year, you're going to have some suffering that occurs in the win and loss column. It's like Texans fans right now who are like, what's happening? We're 0-2. We don't have an offensive line. But I'll get to that later. My point is the expectations they're just idiotic. They're stupid. If you can't make realistic expectations, which I talk about regularly, you're going to have a bad time. Now, I think we've all been on the same page the past couple weeks, which is, or at least maybe longer, a month. Our expectation as reasonable fans of this franchise has been that if the Rangers and Mariners shit the bed like they have, that we run away with it. Because that hasn't happened, we're all disappointed. We're all disappointed. The guys in the clubhouse are disappointed. But what do you think they have to do when they go out and play today? See past it? Put it in the rearview mirror act like a champion, go out and get the job done, right? That's the attitude you have to have. That's the winning attitude. It has to translate with the fans too. You can't have a bunch of whiny babies in the stands. Oh, we're going to lose. Everything is fucked. Even if we lose today, I still stand by what I'm saying. You can't quit on the team. It's lame more than anything else. It's just annoying. You're bringing everybody down. Shut the fuck up. Please shut the fuck up. Some of us kind of enjoy the intensity that we've never had at the end of the season before, at the end of the regular season. Playoff intensity baseball. It's kind of a fun new thing if you're looking for a silver lining. The next 10 days are going to be really, really wild. And it will be pitch after living and dying with every pitch. That's like playoff atmosphere in the regular season that we're going to have. So if you needed a silver lining and maybe you like that, then that's great. For me personally, I don't need the stress in my life, and the cholesterol is I don't need this. The blood pressure, cholesterol. The blood pressure, I don't need it. But this is where we're at. It sucks, but it isn't over. We're still right there. Still checking the standings. Pull them up right now. Let me see. Yep, we've got 84 wins and 68 losses, and we're 4-6 in our last 10 games, and we're up by a half a game over the Mariners and Rangers, who both have 83 wins and 68 losses. And let's see. In the playoff race, it appears that the wild card is now kind of out of control and crazy too, because Tampa Bay is right there. And that's not good. We're tied in the win column with, I'm sorry, Toronto is right there. So we're tied with Toronto for wins. And yeah, it's going to be fucking chaos, yes. But I'm not even just being a dick writer. I genuinely believe. That's the thing. And I am kind of a pessimist. So if I'm not there with you, if you've quit and I'm not there quitting with you, you're probably fucking up. I feel like I'm a good barometer for where you should feel as a fan. We just won the World Series last year. We brought Verlander into the trade deadline. Everybody, for the most part, is finally healthy, minus Stanek, RIP. He's not dead, just for the record, and hopefully he'll be back soon and healthy. They've got all the pieces. There's no excuses. And yes, it's on them at this point. And that pointing at Dusty Baker shit has got to stop. If the dudes don't score or they don't avoid being scored against, he can't really do much about that. Like there's only so much tinkering that can go on. The roster is the roster. The guys have the jobs they have for a fucking reason, and they're supposed to go out and get the job done, and they haven't been doing that appropriately. So I'm just tired at this point. It's been too much of the quitting and the bad attitudes with the fans, and it's not fun. It's not fun. So please, if you've got nothing good to say, just shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. Because if you can't at least balance out the realistic chances of us making the postseason still being mathematically large, all right? Even if you don't want to go off fan graphs, you're like 90% chance. Give me a break. Fine. Just at least admit it's still over 60. We've still got a really good chance of making the postseason, okay? We've still got a coin flip of winning the division. That's where we are realistically. It's not over. We're not going to blow up the team, start another rebuild, fire Dusty, burn down the clubhouse, build a new one. We're same team, man. It's the same team. Probably better, just more inconsistent. The consistency is tough. And last thing I'll say about the Astros today. This team has always had this weird streakiness to it, even in years past. And I'm speaking mostly offensively here. But it's both sides of the ball, pitching and hitting. Streaky, kind of unpredictable. Betting over unders for the Astros is that's a coin flip. This shit is, you never know. Are they going to crank out 17 runs, or are they going to score one run? Or get shut out by a 100-loss team? You never know. You just don't. Their record at home is a bizarre anomaly. We've lost more games at Minute Maid than we've won. So I understand why they're painting over the fucking batter's eye, because there's a lot of, superstition for baseball players is enormous, probably more so than any other sport. Baseball players are extremely superstitious. They're very mental guys. They live up in their heads a lot because you got to stand. You're standing out there doing jack shit 90% of the game, or sitting in the dugout doing nothing, or in the bullpen. You're in your own head. The superstition comes with the sport. I get painting over the thing. That, for me, if the season did end today or yesterday like a lot of you thought it did, that would be the biggest focus going into the offseason. What the fuck is happening in Minute Maid Park? Why are we not playing well at home? Is it the difference in pressure or the not being booed? Do we all need to be booing the Astros when we are at home so that they still feel that animosity from the fans that they do on opposing fields, and then maybe they'll play better? I don't know. But the whole quitting thing, that I can't get with it. I cannot be a part of it. I will not hear it anymore. I will not respond to your tweets or your DMs saying, oh, they fucking lost. What do we do? Oh, God. Pull yourselves together. Act like you've been there before. Have the heart of a champion. Respect the squad. Stop treating them like they're the Texans, which we'll get to next.
Stay off the weed.
One thing about Houston that you better make peace with if you want to survive, it is very, very hot in the summer, and sometimes in all of the other seasons as well. If you don't dress accordingly, you will die accordingly. Fortunately, Bird Dogs will have you looking good and feeling good all summer long, and all fall, and all winter, and all spring, in the most comfortable and versatile shorts, pants, and bathing suits in the entire world. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. I've been wearing Bird Dogs for several years. They're incredible. I wear them to sleep, to do yard work, to work out, to go swimming, to play basketball, to do everything. They fit great, they look great, they feel great. They're insanely comfortable. They come in a ton of different designs, all with funny names like the Art Fart Knockers, Duffy the Vampire Slayers, Uncle Bucks, Teddy Rubskins, Forest Pumps, Marco Pool Boys, Zero Dark 30s, and Tight Wads. I've got an entire drawer of my dresser occupied solely by Bird Dogs with over 20 pairs in there. Pants are great for the golf course, too, since we're coming up to, hopefully, slightly cooler weather. Bird Dogs pants, very, very comfortable, sneaky good looking. People will have no clue how comfortable you are because they look so sharp, like slacks. Pants are great for the golf course, the office, or going out and hitting the bars or going to dinner, out on the town, whatever. And now they've got great looking polo shirts as well that are just as comfortable as everything else they make. So click on the link in the description below to go to birddogs.com/BTC. Enter code BTC at checkout. They will throw in a free Bird Dogs tech hat with every order, like the one you see in front of me if you're watching on YouTube. Great hat. Beautiful. Beautiful hat. birddogs.com/BTC. Use code BTC at checkout to get that free hat with your order. birddogs.com/BTC. Code BTC.
We'll do it live. Fuck it.
All right, let's talk about the Texans for a moment. 0-2. Not that shocking. I said if you wanted to put expectations on a game, that last week's was the first one where you could do that reasonably, and I said that on the show. I didn't feel that way going into Sunday, and I'll prove that by telling you that I bet on the Colts. The line was Indianapolis +1, and I was like, we don't have an offensive line. Speaking of lines, Tunsil was out. We were down to 1 of 5 offensive linemen that were supposed to start. You thought a rookie quarterback was going to go out there and be able to get that done, or a running game would be able to be a thing that we had with that line? No. Silly. So I bet on the Colts, and it made the loss feel a little bit better. I won't lie to you. And sometimes you have to bet against your own team when the timing is right, and this is an example of when the timing is certainly right. And if there are other moments in this Texans season where I have the opportunity to make money off of them being in a fucking first-year situation with their rookie quarterback and head coach, I'm going to do that. If you got a problem with that, you can kiss my ass. But the biggest thing to me is, how does C.J. Stroud look every week, and I thought he looked even better in week 2. It's not like we have a great receiving core. Decent. Nico Collins has been stepping up, getting it done. I love Tank Dell. I think he brings a lot to the table. I think he's going to be good in the coming years. But again, we're dealing with a lot of really young players, a lot of rookie players, a lot of guys that don't have a ton of historical production under their belts, and He's been good. I like Stroud. He looks really, really good. He does. He looks, I feel like I'm stepping out on a limb or saying something extreme when I say this, and maybe I'm not. He gives me as much hope as Deshaun Watson did in his first couple years, where I would watch Deshaun and go, we can build around this dude. He is that good. And we can have a realistic shot at maybe even winning the division one day. Wouldn't that be something? And I want you to keep what I'm saying when I'm talking here about the Texans. Keep the Astros in the back of your mind, okay? With the Texans, I'm celebrating a realistic chance of maybe one day down the line in the future having a chance of winning the division. How many years in a row have the Astros won the division? You want to shit on that team? That's fucking stupid. Texans fans are equally idiotic, though. I've seen so many people complaining about, oh, D'Amico's getting out-coached. Well, yeah, probably. He's a fucking first-year head coach. You thought he was just going to come out and be like Tom Brady's Bill Belichick? Just chill, man. Let him learn. Have faith. Believe a little bit. Do the Ted Lasso. Come on. D'Amico's getting out-coached. We still suck. It's the same thing as last year. Did you watch last year? Or the year before that? Or the year before that? This is not the same thing. It is not the same thing. That's ignorant. That's ignorant. You're being ignorant. That's ignorant. Don't say stuff like that. You sound like an idiot. If you come here to figure out what you should or shouldn't say, don't say the Texans are still in the same boat as they were last year. That's foolish behavior. Defense has got to be better. I looked at one point. I didn't watch the game. I'll be honest with you about that. I didn't watch it when it was live. Let me restate. I did not watch it when it was live. I went back and watched, fast forwarding through the commercials, and did my thing after the fact. But I went to a minor league baseball game with my kids instead because, like I said, I bet the Colts, and I was like, I'm not ruining my Sunday with these shitty vibes. And I'm glad I didn't, because the thing that I caught when I rewatched the defense, dude, there was a point where I looked up and Gardner Minshew was like 11 for 13 for 220 yards. Gardner Minshew carved up our secondary. So I thought that was supposed to be the thing that we would have to look forward to every week, the defense being rock solid. That hasn't really been the case yet, and that is the one thing I will say I've been disappointed with. I hope the defense is better next week, because that was pretty ugly. We're giving up too many points, and it's too challenging for us to score because we don't have an offensive line, and I pray to God that the offensive line gets healthy soon, because that shit is tough to watch. But if you're going into every week right now like Texans should win this game, then you are putting yourself really behind the eight ball, because I don't think there are going to be that many games this year that they should, on paper, win. We're still one of the worst teams in the league, for sure, bar none, no argument. One of the 5 worst teams in the league, without argument. We're going to lose a lot of football games. If we win 6, that's a success to me. I don't know if we'll do that. They don't look good. But there have been elements of the team that get me excited about the future, and D'Amico is still one of them as our coach. But C.J. Stroud is the biggest one and the receivers too. But frankly, I've been pleasantly surprised with what I've seen from the receiving core, considering I didn't really know too much about like what we'd be able to do there. Biggest disappointment has been the defense to me. And I'm not counting the health of the offensive line. And for everybody who's, why didn't we do more? We did. We tried. They brought in offensive linemen. They brought in veterans. They just got hurt. They didn't stay healthy. And another thing that if you've been watching a bunch of NFL this year, it's becoming more and more apparent that the starting lineups not playing in the preseason is making it to where the first few weeks of the NFL season are a sloppy mess filled with fumbles, interceptions, missed kicks, tons and tons of penalties, and it's just ugly. It's really, really ugly out there. I don't know how they fix that, but they got to do something, because it's almost unwatchable, some of these games. I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Fucking terrible football. And there's 17 games in the season now. They just keep making the season longer, but then preseason's not taken seriously, so preseason is basically occurring at the first few weeks of the season. It's weird. It's really weird out there. So what do we have this weekend? We got the Jaguars in Jacksonville at TIAA Bank Field, and we are 9.5-point dogs currently. So, again, if you're watching the Texans play the Jaguars this Sunday, and you go into the game and in your little brain you're going, we're supposed to win. You're doing it wrong. We are very much not supposed to win. I'd like to see growth. Shock the world. That'd be sick. Is it probably going to happen? No, probably not. It's not a probable thing. So just be realistic with what we've got going on, all right? Focus on CJ. What is CJ showing you? Is he going to be good when we do have an offensive line and we can have a running game to balance out the passing game? And when he's growing with the receivers, is he going to be good? So far, my judgment, yes. Yes. How good? Yet to be seen. But at least impressive. Impressively good. Defensively, that's where more of my interest is at this point because I'm like, we're underperforming. Are we going to be a good defense? The whole reason they made the DeMeco Ryans hire outside of the cultural fit and the obvious fact that we are huge fans of DeMeco, he built a great defense for the 49ers. He was a great defensive coordinator, a great DC. So we thought we would be bringing a defensive culture to Houston. We don't really have that yet. Is it going to get better? We'll see. We'll see. But you're going into every week right now, watching games, looking for improvement, looking for signs of future success, looking for a ceiling for each of these individual players. Because the team in and of itself right now that we're seeing on the field is not the finished product. And that's what people are acting like. Oh, I thought we were just going to hire a first-year head coach and have a rookie quarterback and win the fucking Super Bowl. That's how some of y'all are acting. And it's silly. It just doesn't even... You've never watched the NFL before? Also, it's a weird league. Any given Sunday is a saying for a reason. You never fucking know. Like, we could beat the Jags on Sunday and we could still be dog shit. So just chill, Winston, with all the judging and the trying to say the season's a failure or the team needs to be blown or that it's on ownership. Like, I think we're moving in the right direction. We were terrible, y'all. Terrible. We're watchable right now, still. But for different reasons than I would like. Anyway, Texans-Jags, another AFC South matchup for the ages this upcoming Sunday. Let me check the Astros score, see where we're at. It says still 1-0 Orioles, top of the third, middle of the third now. We have no hits currently. No hits. Batter's eye, huh? Fucking batter's eye. See, I'm angry too. I'm frustrated too. I'm just not going to act like a loser because that's not what I do. I'm a winner. Winners win. And hopefully our squad will pull it out and we'll get into the playoffs. I'll check in later this week. I'll do a hotline call episode. How about that? Call the hotline. I don't have the number pulled up and I don't have it memorized, so that's going to be tough. Let me see how quickly I can do it here. If it's under 5 seconds, I'll give it to you. And the number is 888-203-2339. Call the Banging the Can voicemail hotline. It's a voicemail box. You don't have to worry about talking to a human or being anxious about screwing up. If you screw up your voicemail, hang up, call back. I delete the one you screwed up. We all move on with our lives and act like it never happened. 2-minute limit on the voicemail box. 888-203-2339. I'll check in later this week, maybe early next week, depending on how things go with my schedule. And try to get a voicemail box message or voicemail episode in there because I like responding to y'all's takes, and we'll see what happens between now and then. A lot could happen, but that will do it for today's show. Remember, every episode of Banging the Can is available on youtube.com/@bangingthecan. For those of you who would rather watch instead of just listen, I appreciate everybody who's on YouTube supporting the show. On that note, please share the most unapologetic Houston sports show in existence with your friends, your family, your Houston sports squad. This week's sponsor, by the way, Bird Dogs. Support our sponsors. Click on the link in the description below to go to birddogs.com/BTC. Code BTC when you check out, and they'll throw in a free Bird Dogs tech hat with every order. Check out my media startup, Bolen Media, at bolenmedia.com. My comedy show, The Ross Bolen Podcast, available wherever you consume Banging the Can. Follow us on TikTok at Banging the Can, as well as Twitter and Instagram. I am Ross Bolen. You can follow me on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, at WRBOLEN, at WRBolen. Be back soon. Until next time, go Astros, go Texans. Keep your heads up. H-Town, stay down.